Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy that you wanted to join me today because today I'm going to take you guys through 30 different sustainable or zero waste actions that does not require any money. I am doing this video primarily because I also really want to make sustainable content that is accessible to not only people who are able to spend money on sustainable and aesthetically pleasing swaps, because sustainability is just so much more than that. And I thought it would be a really good fit to do this video in July because, hey, we have Plastic Free July, and on Instagram this entire month I am rating and introducing zero waste swaps and talking a little bit about how much I like them or dislike them. And you can already find the first recap on my blog and read through 7 different things that I have rated that are in the sustainably zero waste swap spectrum. There is a lot of aspects of sustainability and of the zero waste movement that is often deeply affected by privilege. One privilege might be that you are able-bodied, as many disabled people have a much harder time making sustainable choices because they literally have less choices. Or that privilege can be class-related or race-related. There are tons of things, and I'm not saying that these 30 tips or these 30 actions are completely free of that privilege, because that's really hard for me to actually determine. So if that's not the case, you feel free to tell me so. If you have more tips or anything you want to add in the regard of sustainability and privilege or eco-ableism, all of this stuff, feel free to comment down below. I actually already have a video about eco-ableism and straws specifically. So if that is something you are more interested in, feel free to go and check that out as well. But let's get into the things that we can do. The first thing is to vote. Voting is such an intensely important sustainable action because the politicians that we elect is going to affect our environment and our planet so much. So remember to vote for politicians with ambitious environmental policies. Politicians are generally parties that hold bigger companies accountable. It is a sustainable and zero waste swap that does not require you to buy anything, and it does not require any resources from you, and it's so super duper important. Another thing that you can do, it does not require any money or any resources from you, but picking up trash when you're walking in nature, just when you're walking on the street. I personally have a minimum of garbage that I want to pick up every time I go out, and it's 3, sometimes it's 5, but I definitely want to pick up trash every time that I go out and then just simply put it in a nearby bin. I know this is something that's not necessarily possible if you are disabled. This is definitely one of those things that does not require you to purchase anything. It does not require any resources from you. It just requires you to pick up stuff. And if you're able to, I definitely think that you should. Number 3 is a little bit more extreme. I don't know, it requires a little bit more of you time-wise, but dumpster diving. Dumpster diving is completely free, you don't spend any money, and you get food for yourself, and you also save food from going to waste. So that is a win-win in my book. I have tons of guides on how to dumpster dive, so if you're more interested in that, I suggest you watch those videos as well. Number 4, which actually does require you to purchase anything, but only if you were going to anyway, but picking out lonely bananas when you're in the supermarket. So if you are buying bananas, pick those that are not like in a bundle together, but pick those that are singled out, because those are much more likely to be thrown away by the end of the day. So that's also a way to combat food waste while you're not doing anything extra than what you were already doing. Number 5 is using disposables multiple times. Waste is not waste until you waste it. So if you, for instance, have an empty plastic hummus container, then use that multiple times. Use it as many times as you want. In my eco-ableism video, a person who is actually dependent upon plastic straws told me that she uses the same plastic straw multiple times because that is the only option for her. She cannot use reusable straws because they're not bendy. So she just decided to use the same straw multiple times. So that is, again, great. Number 6 is an alternative to the fancy both stainless steel and bamboo cutlery kits. You can just bring your own kitchenware if you're going out eating with friends, going out to eat on a picnic and stuff like that. Just have a fork from your normal kitchen drawers in your bag or in your purse, and that's just as good as any sustainable swap that you would buy in a cute little pouch or like a cute little set. That is just as sustainable. That is, in my opinion, actually more sustainable because you're using something that you already have and you didn't spend any money on it. Number 7 is saying no to freebies and promotional items that you don't really need. This is something that can be really, really difficult if you're just handed something and then people are on their way again. But definitely if you are offered freebies or promotional items that you don't need, try to avoid them the best that you can, especially if it's something that you know that you don't have any use for. Instead of binging Netflix or any other streaming service, try to be more offline. I do that by either playing a game that is offline that I already have on my laptop, or watching a DVD, or reading a book, or indulging in a zero waste DIY project with things I already have in my home. But generally being more creative and doing something offline rather than watching Netflix on hours and hours on end. Because that's definitely something that I know I can be guilty of myself. And doing the opposite costs you nothing and can actually increase the value of your spare time, so that's something that you can consider as well. Number 9 is kind of similar, but going for a walk in nature is also something that does not cost you anything, doesn't require any resources from you, requires you to be able-bodied to a certain extent. That's of course something that I am also seeing, but it's definitely something a lot of people are able to do, and if you're already doing it or if you're already there, try and picking up a few pieces of trash as well. Number 10 is instead of buying expensive bouquets from flower stores, which can be super duper expensive, use the flowers that are growing in wild nature nearby you, if that's a possibility. I've been doing that for ages and I love my wildflower bouquets because they are free, they are sustainable, they're zero waste and they're local. I didn't spend any money on it and that's kind of cool. Number 11 is instead of throwing away old furniture or old clothes, sell it or donate it. I have had so much luck selling items that I thought were completely useless to me, and then I actually got money, which is pretty cool. You can use tons of online apps and shops for that. So that's really, really cool. But if you don't want to do that, for instance, if it's time consuming or if it does require resources from you, you can also simply just donate it. A lot of thrift shops or charity shops have pick-up services, so they will come and pick things up if it's too heavy or too difficult for you to transport. And it's definitely a good and sustainable idea because tons of people can get so much use out of things that you thought were garbage. Number 12 is if you are at a restaurant and you don't need a straw, specify that in your drink order and don't get one. It's something that when I've done this, I've several times had the waiters tell me that, oh, the straws are for free, so you don't have to worry, and I have to specify then again, oh, it's because of the plastic thing that I don't really like it. And then they've been super understanding. Sometimes they've forgotten and I've got the straw anyway, but definitely specifying it in your drink order if you don't need a straw is a free and zero waste sustainable alternative to getting the straw. Number 13 is instead of buying tons of stuff that you're perhaps only going to use, read, watch, etc. one time, I've always been used to, also when I was younger, to go to the library to borrow books and movies and CDs and stuff like that. And there are also tons of both publicly and privately owned services where you can rent different kinds of yard equipment or different kinds of exercise equipment and all kinds of things like that. So you don't actually have to buy all of these things that we don't need to use more than 1 or 2 times. We can simply just rent it instead, and I think that's so much better. That is of course going to cost you money usually, but not as much money as buying it would do. If you have broken bed sheets or tablecloths, instead of throwing them away, you can cut them up and use them as pillowcase fillers or as napkins or as makeup remover wipes. I think that is such a cool and amazing idea, and it's a really good way of getting rid of things that you would normally just have thrown away, but you can actually use, if it's normal good quality cotton fabric, you can use it for so many different things. And again, small scraps that you don't necessarily have a specific use for can be filling in a pillowcase. If you buy food in glass jars in grocery stores, that can be everything from peanut butter and jam and olive oil and stuff like that. Reuse the jars at home rather than recycling them, because reusing is always better than recycling. It's much less impactful and much more sustainable. So if you have use for these glass containers in your home, don't spend your money going out and buying fancy looking jars, just use the jars from the grocery store. You can also blend stale bread and make breadcrumbs that are delicious in different kinds of comfort food recipes. That's something that I've been doing for ages and ages and ages, and it's really good and very low waste, very sustainable, and don't have to buy breadcrumbs specifically because you can make them at home in your blender. You can save on your energy bill by layering up before turning on the heat. That is not only something that's financially more sound, but it's also something that's more sustainable to do. And what I've been doing for the past many years is that I turn off my heat from March until November, and in that time, if I am cold in my apartment, I'll simply just put on some fuzzy socks or a jumper or something like that. And in the really heavy winter periods, I am going to have my heat on, but not completely turned up. I'm still going to be layering up instead, and that's more sustainable, which is why I do it, but it also saves me a ton of money on my energy bill. You can also make a section in your fridge that says eat first and put all of the food that's about to go bad or soon going to go bad, or something that you generally want to eat before buying new food, because that's something that's definitely helped me when it comes to food waste. Because if you can see the things very clearly that you need to finish before buying new things, it's much more likely that you are actually going to finish it. Number 19 is learning how to mend. Generally, learning how to repair your clothes is so flippin' sustainable and cool and amazing, and something that I've been doing for the longest time, and something that my boyfriend is even better at than I am. And it's just such an amazing thing because it will save you so much money on new clothes, because you can simply just repair the ones that you have. If you're already buying something online, specify in your order that it should be shipped without plastic or with as little plastic as possible. It's something that's completely free for you to do, and it signals to companies that they should reduce their plastic. Replace meat in your dishes with tofu or beans or lentils. These items are often much cheaper than meat, and it's also more sustainable to do. If you're in a coffee shop, ask for a real mug rather than a to-go coffee cup, if you're going to sit there anyway. And if you're not, then you can perhaps bring a mug from your house instead. Cotton can actually also be composted. So if you do have a compost, you can compost any kind of cotton product, like jeans, like sheets, like anything that's made from cotton. And the rest of it can obviously be cut into makeup remover wipes, something that is actually kind of expensive to buy if you have to buy these reusable small cotton rounds. You don't actually have to, you can make them yourself for free. Number 24 is washing your hands in cold water rather than hot water, because this saves a lot of energy, and that's especially true if you have a water heater that is run on fossil fuels, like for instance a lot of gas. Number 25 is contacting your local recycling plant and recycling station and asking them what can actually be recycled in your local area. That gives you such a more thorough idea of what you can recycle, so what you can reduce and what you don't necessarily have to reduce as much of. Number 26 is if you are taking notes on real paper, use both sides of the paper before discarding it. That will also save you a ton of waste, and it's more sustainable and practical and free. Arrange a clothes swapping event with a couple of friends. That's a really good way of getting new clothes without actually purchasing any new clothes. And if you want to reduce your fast fashion, but you don't necessarily have the money to go and spend that on sustainable clothes, and if thrift shops are kind of out of the question, or in general much less available to you than in other places, then arranging clothes swapping event with friends where no one has to buy anything but you're just switching it up is a really good idea, and something that's also incredibly nice, and it's a fun day. Number 28 is don't blow all your Christmas money and the Christmas budget on wrapping paper and all the likes of it. Instead, you can use newspaper that is often completely free, or you can use cotton cloths from your kitchen and simply reuse them every year. Air drying your laundry rather than using a dryer is also an extremely sustainable and free alternative. And actually 50% of the impact of doing your laundry comes from using a dryer. And number 30, the last one, is making a drain water or rainwater drainage system so you can reuse rainwater to water your houseplants. Completely free, very sustainable, and very cool. That was my list of 30 things that you can start to do now. Sustainable zero waste actions that does not cost you any money, any resources. I just wanted to make it clear that I know I'm not the first person to come up with this. I am very aware of that, and we should pay homage to these indigenous communities that have been doing these things and much more for years and years. Not necessarily always out of being zero waste, but out of sheer necessity. And that's something to keep in mind. I really hope that you liked this video. If you did, you can leave it a thumbs up, or you can leave your tips on how to be more sustainable without spending a dime down below. I would love to see what you come up with and what you do in your daily life as well. Take really good care of yourselves, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green zero waste content and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!